Hi ladies, it's Karen and I have another completed project to share with you. This is another Balsa box camera that I created. It's a camera made out of one of the Balsa boxes that you could find at Michael's. See, it goes like that and it, opens here. And I wanted to do this in a beach theme. So that's what I did. I purposely wanted to leave it white. I didn't want to use any paper or anything on it because I knew I wanted to add texture to the paint and also use some modeling paste, and I'll show you the stencil that I used in a moment. But I thought it came out really cute, so let me show you, all the sides. First I covered it with white gesso inside and out, and then I used the warm white folk art, I believe it's folk art paint, warm white, and I also used a little bit of the vintage white paint. And I did use some goosebumps. As you can see over here, there's texture. This is from a stencil, this shell, but you could see there's texture underneath this piece from Butterbee Scraps. I painted that white with gesso and with the paint. And underneath this lace, there's some more texture. And over there. So, I didn't want to use paper to cover up. I knew I wanted to play with the paints and stuff. So, that's what I did. I also, for the lens, I did the same thing as the last one. I used a spool, cardboard spool that comes, with your empty ribbons. And this time I took off both sides, so it was just the raw spool left. I sanded it, and then it had a large enough lip where I was able to adhere it to the Balsa box. I used Fabri-Tac for that. But yeah, I painted it, went over it with my clear texture spray Goosebumps to let the paint bubble up and get some texture and everything. I did use a hint of the Sea Glass by Tattered Angels, this Glimmer Mist, in different places just to give it a hint of turquoise. And for the stencil that I used here, and on the top, that sand dollar, which came out really sweet. And over here, there's a seashell. It came out cool. And over here is like, sand pebbles, I guess. Anyway, those came from this template by the Crafter's Workshop. Tina, she's top cropper here on YouTube, had sent this to me. Thank you so much, Tina. And I used this one in the sand dollar and some of this one. And it's by the Crafter's Workshop. So that's the template I used with my modeling paste. And over there, so after I used my modeling paste, then I sprayed some of my Whale Watch Blue from Lindy's Stamp Gang and my Clam Bake Beige, also from Lindy's Stamp Gang, just very lightly, and then I painted it onto the different areas that I had stenciled the seashells and stuff on, so that you could definitely see both colors within the modeling paste there and underneath there. So that's how I got that effect. For the lens, like I said, I used my spool of ribbon, empty spool of ribbon, and then I wrapped it with this burlap, which comes on a spool from Hobby Lobby, and then I adhered this blingy mesh trim. I cut a couple of strips and adhered that, and then if you could see inside there, like onto the Balsa box itself, I have an actual beach photo. It's hard to see because I did use an acetate piece for the lens, and I used this one rather than the clear one. Whoops, because I liked the design on it, and I thought that the different frosted looks had the kind of a wave look to it, like the ocean, and I just thought it added a sweet touch. But within the lens, there are some seashells, there are some sequins that look like this, and some iridescent sequins. There's a blingy butterfly, tiny seashells, and tiny pearls are inside there, if you can hear that. So I adhered my photo onto the box, and then I placed, after I had covered this with burlap and put my lens on, or this acetate piece on, and then I adhered it to on top of the photo there onto the box, and I used my Fabri-Tac to adhere that. And I thought it came out really cute, and I left the fringe at the end to give the illusion that the lens was longer than it actually is. And then I started playing with my flowers, and these are flowers that I got from Craft Supplies 1 on, I believe it's Etsy. I'll put it below. Anyway, Craft Supplies 1, or maybe it's Zibbit, I can't remember, I'm so sorry, but I will put it below. I really love this green flower, and it looks like this. And I just thought it had a aquatic look to it. You know, it's a nice small flower, but I thought it would be perfect for this project. I really like the color. So that's what that is. This little seahorse here I had received in one of my doodad bags from Lydia. Thank you, Lydia. And the tiny, tiny roses are from I Am Roses. I added some sequins that I picked up at Joann's. There's a little piece of lace there. This is another turquoise flower from Craft Supplies 1, and this is a tiny, tiny little seashell that was painted blue, and I'd gotten that from Stephanie. She's Vintage Paper Girl. So I added a few sequins throughout the project to give the, I guess, the look of ocean spray or whatever. This is an actual starfish, dried starfish. And no, I didn't catch it. This was purchased. And another little turquoise flower up there on top of this bling, you know, to balance it out. For the top part, I used another wing nut, and thank you to all my subscribers who were able to tell me what this was called. I used another wing nut, and I used a large bauble. This one's bigger than the one I had in my on the other camera that I created. I just like the look of that one. And then this is one of the Tim Holtz faucet knobs, and I painted both of these with gesso and then with the warm white paint, and I gave it several coats so that you know, to cover it real well. And both of these were adhered to the box itself with Fabri-Tac. I adhered the bauble to the wing nut with glossy accents. But I used Fabri-Tac to adhere the metal to the Balsa box. It works perfectly. So that's what I did. See, this is the Tim Holtz faucet handle. And then from the handle, I used some of my white chain. Let's see. I used some of my white chain, and I added this piece. This is from, I believe, the Industrial Chic pieces at Michael's. If you could see that face inside there, really, really cool. And this one does open up. I don't want to open it up now because I'll never be able to get it shut. But I just thought it was really sweet, like a negative, you know. And then I added a couple of pearls. I added this blue bauble simply because it brought out the turquoise and turquoise blue colors that are on the camera. A little whale charm, and look, his mouth opens and closes. So cute. I believe I got that also from Lydia, and a little sea turtle here, and another pearl. The pearls are from Tim Holtz. And this is supposed to be, you know, like the wristband or whatever, you know, when you hold your camera. So that's how I did that. The butterfly is from Butterbee Scraps. I painted it with white gesso and then a little bit with the acrylic paint. I thought it came out really sweet. And then I added some of this Prima lace with a couple of these seashell type buttons. And this also is from Butterbee Scraps. And then on the inside, I'm going to have to bring it to myself so I can open it. And then on the inside, I have just a little mini album. And for this little mini album, I used the Beach Cottage papers by Iron Orchid Designs. Oh, Creative Imaginations, sorry. But it's really pretty papers. And I love the mermaid there. I was going to put her on the camera itself, but she was kind of too big. So I put her on the cover of my little mini. I fussy cut her out and kind of trimmed her up a little bit. I added a little piece of burlap behind her. She's on Pop Dots. Some pieces of lace with the turquoise flower. I tied it off with this jute. And I added this pearl dangle piece from Hobby Lobby. Snapshots from today is from a sticker sheet that I had. And so the inside of this looks like this. I just added some cheesecloth and a little doily, and I fussy cut this flower from the collection. And this is just a piece of burlap, and this is the green part to one of those flowers on the camera. I didn't want the green showing, so I used it this way. And I did distress this with, I believe, walnut stain. This is a small doily from the Paper Bag Lady with a little I Am Rosa's rose in there. And this is just big enough for some tiny, maybe little wallet-sized photos, or maybe some beach quotes, or just journaling. Little piece of lace and another little rose. Some of this Prima lace and a little bit of bling. I included an acetate sheet. I thought that might be fun. And then this page, this is one of the small doilies from the $2 bin at Michael's. And I just added a little piece of lace, as it were a leaf or whatever, in a rose. And some more lace and a sequin, some bling, another little rose. And then the last page is this piece of burlap, and this is this was a charm, but I cut it off, and it's like stained glass type thing, but it's a pair of flip-flops. I know it's hard to tell, but it's a pair of flip-flops and a little rose. And I just signed the back. So I thought the little mini album came out really sweet. And went over some spots with gesso, you know, to lighten it up, distress it out. So I thought that was really cute. And there's my Beachy camera. I thought it came out really cool. I ended up having to adhere this bling with my glossy accents because the texture, putting the bling on that texture became a problem. So there you go. My Beachy type, my Altered Balsa box to a Beachy type camera, and the little mini for inside. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. Bye-bye now.